Hello everyone, I'm Wolfgang from the Tank Encyclopedia team, and today I will be building the Opel Blitz 25/32 from Revell in 1/35 scale. Over the course of history, many generals have paid dearly for disregarding one of the most important martial arts, logistics. Now, this is a bit of an unusual theme for us, since it's not an armored fighting vehicle, but there's one thing that even the biggest tanks need. Ammunition, fuel and spare parts, usually carried by a fleet of trucks. The Opel Blitz was the workhorse of the German army during World War II, with tens of thousands built and used during the war. This particular version I am building right now is the lighter variant of the Opel Blitz, sporting a 2.5-liter 6-cylinder engine giving out 55 horsepower. It is often called a 1.5-ton truck after its maximum cargo capacity, and more than 60,000 units were built between 1938 and 1942. It was used for an assortment of tasks during the war, but our version is a simple flatbed one. I started with assembling the U-profile frame of the truck, and if you follow the steps in the instructions you should be fine. The good news is that this kit should be much easier and faster to put together than most tanks, since it lacks tracks and only has 3 sprues in total. This does not mean that the kit is not detailed, but general purpose trucks such as the Opel Blitz were far simpler machines in real life as well. The next step is to assemble the straight 6 engine. Unfortunately, the parts are too small to deliver quality footage of me doing so, but lucky for us, no problems are present with fitting. The wheels are also assembled easily, although I do advise to not glue in the rubber tires since it is easier to weather them that way later on. I tried otherwise and I should have done the tires separate. The front wheels were used for steering and the rear double wheels were powered. The double rear wheels allowed the Blitz to carry more weight and to distribute it better on the ground, allowing it some resemblance of off-road performance. Painting the engine is also relatively easy. There's no crazy amount of parts that you need to paint, and you can do so after it is already assembled. I'm also adding a dark brown wash from AK Interactive to make it look dirty and in order to highlight details. The story of the Opel Blitz started with the acquisition of the Opel company by the American General Motors giant between 1928 and 1931, with production of the new trucks starting in 1931 for the civilian market. And it's important to keep in mind that most German trucks of the war were of civilian origin. At the heart of the new Blitz series of trucks was a Buick engine, although the engine probably evolved substantially during production. No fewer than 123,000 Blitz trucks were built, 25,000 of which had 4-wheel drive, unlike the version I am building, and they were all considered off-road capable. The bodywork also changed significantly during its long production run, with the cab, bonnet, fenders, bumper, radiator grille and headlights undergoing extensive changes. There were a myriad of bodywork versions depending on the role the vehicle would fill, ranging from the open flatbed 4-model to hard-topped ambulances and elongated buses, soft-top vehicles used as personnel transporters, special repair shops or radio vehicles or tankers. The Opel Blitz was truly ubiquitous and ever-present in the war. Now, war trucks such as this had it rough, going at all times through sun, rain and snow, and with little protection, thus their paint got scratched, worn and discolored by UV light. The rust effects on the muffler were achieved by laying down a layer of burnt umber oil paint and adding rust-colored pigment while the paint is wet. Oil paints dry slow, so it's a good choice in this case. To achieve the wooden texture of the flatbed, I painted a base tone with Acer Interactive acrylic paint as shown on screen. Afterward, I used a dry brush technique to add grain texture. Take your time while doing this, but don't be too pedantic, since wood texture should look random given that it is an organic material. No, the flatbed will be painted, but given that in real life it would have various cargo being loaded and unloaded, this paint would often chip off, leaving the underlying wood visible. Off screen I sprayed a protective layer of glossy varnish so that the chipping won't hurt the wood base paint. After a day of varnish drying, I used the cheapest hairspray that was available to apply a chipping coat. Don't buy the expensive stuff, it's the fact that it's water soluble that helps us do the chipping, not the fancy additives. Also, your mother, girlfriend, wife won't be mad at you later on. Now you can see the spraying of the Dunkelgelb color, and then I will let it dry for a few minutes. It's finally time for some beddering. I use a soft brush with regular tap water to remove the Dunkelgelb where paint chipping would occur naturally. Be very careful since you can easily chip more than you want. If you chipped away too much, don't worry though, just spray another thin layer of the top color on. Now I'm applying a lighter shade of Dunkelgelb for color modulation, because the effects of weather and sunlight would make the paint change color in certain spots. Afterwards, I sprayed on thin lines of chocolate brown and olive green using the airbrush in order to give the vehicle a bit of camouflage, or at least I tried to make it thin. Before we delve in the painting process, I want to tell you why I chose the colors that are shown. In the book Trucks of the Wehrmacht, the official colors are described as shown on the extract on the screen. The recommended and used colors were dark yellow RAL 7028, olive green RAL 6003 and red-brown RAL 8017. While I do realize that red brown is not the same tone as choco brown, I decided that the red brown would be too red in tone, at least if you take a look at the picture shown on screen. The AK interactive colors come pretty close to the desired tone, but also keep in mind that light conditions and other variables will lead to differences between the look of reference pictures and your kit. The application, as mentioned in the book, would have been decided by the crew, making every track look different. Since I've finally gotten my hands on an airbrush, I wanted to make thin lines of choco brown and olive green in a fairly random manner. Most vehicles would not look as nice, since most units did not have an airbrush, leaving them using rugs and other methods of paint application. With the camouflage done, I added in some dirt and earth to the vehicle. As it was able to go off-road, and the road networks in the combat areas were not always the best, especially during spring and autumn, they would get dirty. I used white spirit on the parts I want the earth pigments to stick. With that done, I can apply the light brown pigments with a soft brush. Afterwards, I apply light dust pigments on the track bed and remove the excess with a makeup sponge. I also cut a mask from masking tape for where the windscreen wipers would leave their mark. After applying the pigments, I simply removed the tape. The final step consists of gluing in the accessories like some tracks and guns on the trackbed. You can of course glue any item you desire. I would have glued in some barrels as well, but unfortunately they didn't make it in time to me. Some final words. The parts all fit nice and the engine is detailed enough for me to make the engine cover removable. There are aftermarket resin parts for the engine and photo etch parts for the cover if you wish to make it even more detailed. For the asking price of 15 to 25 euros, I do recommend the kit for fans of World War II vehicles and trucks. If you like this video and want to see more tank related content on our page and on YouTube, please visit our Patreon site if you'd like to donate. For more interesting content, visit one of the shown outlets. Thanks for watching this video, and next time we will venture to the trenches of World War I. Until then, have a great time.